Happy Friday. Let's find out what happens today. The boy skirted along the edge of the reef, lowered his sail, that means the wind's not blowing him anymore, and dropped overboard the lump of coral which served as an anchor. Then he took out his fish line and baited the hook with a piece of crab meat. He wanted to enjoy to the full this new sensation of confidence in himself, this freedom from the sea's threat. He looked back at the land fondly, but without longing. The high peak, purple in the waning light, stood somber against the sky. The valleys were shadowed with mystery. All these weeks he had lived close to this island and been grateful for its bounty. But he had been born on an atoll, a low island, and all his life had been spent in the spaciousness of open sea and wind-swept palms. This was something gloomy and oppressive in this high island, the reef. This was part of his heritage. The sea, at last, was as much his element as the land. The realization flooded through him in a warm tide of contentment. He lowered his fish line, fastened it to the mid-thwart, and looked deep down into the clear water. He saw a scarlet rock cod materialize, hang in the shadows of the canoe, motionless save for the slight movement of its gills. With a sudden flip of its tail, it vanished. How fantastic was that undersea world! The boy saw branching staghorn corals as large as trees, through which jellyfish floated like a film of fog. He saw shoals of tiny mullet, miniature arrowheads, the whole school scarcely larger than a child's hand. A conger eel drew its ugly head back within a shadowy cavern. Here, beside the walled reef, Mufasa bamboo trap hung suspended. Before he returned to shore, he would empty the trap. It had been undisturbed since the tiger shark was killed, and each day it yielded up a good supply of mullet, or crayfish, or lobsters. Boy, this guy is eating good. Here, the wall of living coral descended to lagoon floor. Its sides were pierced with caves and darkness, whose mystery the boy felt no desire to explore. Far below, perhaps 40 feet, the sandy floor of the lagoon was clear and green in the dappled light. A parrotfish emerged from the gloom, nibbled at Mufasa's bait, then vanished. Aye, these fish must be well fed. My piece of crab meat does not tempt them. The boy decided to give it up and content himself with the fish in the bamboo trap. He leaned over the gunwale and pulled it up out of the water. Through the opening in the cage, he could see 3 lobsters, blue, green, and fat. What luck! But as he dragged the heavy, wet trap over the gunwale, the fiber cord that fastened his knife about his neck caught on the edge of the bamboo. The trap slipped, the cord snapped, the knife fell into the water. Oh, no. It took him a long time to make that knife. Well, I guess it's gone. Or do you think he's going to go get it? Let's find out. With dismay, the boy watched it descend, so it's sinking. It spiraled rapidly, catching the sunlight as it dropped down to the sandy bottom. And there it lay, just under the edge of the branching staghorn. Mufasa eyed it uncertainly. His knife, the knife he had labored so hard to shape. He knew that what he ought to do. He should dive and retrieve it. To make another knife so fine would take days. Without it, he was seriously handicapped. He must get that knife. But, dun, dun, dun. But what? Well, maybe we should wait till tomorrow. Let's find out. The reef wall looked dark and forbidding in the fading light. Its black holes were the home of the giant Fakey? The octopus? The boy drew back in sudden panic. He had never dived as deep as this. It might be even dangerous, deeper than he thought, for the clarity of the water confused all scales of distances. Now 40 feet! Oh my goodness, I think the deepest swimming pool I ever dived down in was 10 feet. And diving to the bottom, that took some time. Could you imagine diving 40 feet? You run out of breath by the time you got to the bottom, and then you got to come all the way back up. The knife looked so very near, and yet there it lay, gleaming palely. The boy gazed down at it with longing. He remembered the morning he had found the whale's skeleton, the first one he had ever seen. Surely Maui, the god of the fishermen, had sent that whale there to die for Mufasa's use. The long hours that had gone into making that knife. It had saved Yuri's life, too, and now Yuri in the bow of the canoe was looking at his master with eyes so puzzled and true. Mufasa drew a deep breath. Too deep. How could he abandon his knife? Would Maui? The thought chilled him. Think him a coward? Was he still Mufasa, the boy who was afraid? He leaped to his feet, gave a brave hitch to the parero. Then, that means the anchor, he put the anchor on the boat. Then he was overside in the water. He clung for a moment to the gunwale, breathed in deeply, inhaling, then releasing the air in a long, drawn whistle. He prepared his lungs for the pressure of the depth. Many times he had seen the pearl divers do it. In the canoe lay a coral weight fastened to the length of sennit. Mufasa took the weight, so now he's going to put an anchor on him, and held the cord in his toes. With a final deep breath, he descended feet first, allowing the weight to pull him downward. At about 20 feet, he released the weight, turned over, and swam for the bottom. Here, the water was cool and green. The sunlight filtered from above in long, oblique bands. Painted fish fled before him. He saw a giant paua, that's a clamshell, 5 feet across, that's bigger than your desk, and taller than he. Its open lips waited to snap shut upon fish or man. Green fronds waved gently as if some submarine wind. A shadow moved above the boy's head, and he glanced upward in alarm. Only a sand shark, cruising harmlessly. Oh, only a shark? Okay, that's kind of scary in my mind. An eel, like a cold weaving ribbon, touched his leg and was gone. The knife, there it lay. How sharp and bright it looked. Now the boy's hands was upon it. He seized it and sprang upward towards the light. Oh, sounds like everything's going to work out good. Well, we'll find out. See you guys on Monday.